All right, folks, how we doing? We're back? Okay. So normally, I have a co-host, but tonight he's feeling ill. So we're just going to do the normal show that we normally do, and we're going to invite some guests on, and we're going to go at this film. So my name is Jonathan. I am from Bombs Away. Bombs Away is a B-movie comedy podcast that just watches the films like we watched tonight, and then we kind of have some fun with it. So, like we always do, we first read off the taglines, and I encourage anybody in the audience to just shout out any jokes or anything that they want to say. It'll catch it, and it'll be a fun time. All right, a lot of audience participation tonight. So, first tagline: the nightmare is about to begin again. And then the other one was, prayers won't save you in the silent part of this night. Ladies and gentlemen, this movie has a budget of $100,000, a gross of $154,000, with 10 flashbacks, 2 flashbacks in a flashback, 21 times naughty is spoken, 5 actors playing the same character, 3 scenes of nudity, 1 man-ass, 1 death by jeep, umbrella impalements, 2 deaths off screen, car battery electrocution, strangulations by car antenna, strangulations by reel-to-reel, 4 gunshot deaths, 1 car explosion death, 1 axe decapitation, with 13 deaths in total, and a 3.5 on IMDb, and, a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. You guys need to get on there and start reviewing it. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, it's 1987's Silent Night, Deadly Night, Part 2.
Fuck off, dog. Who killed your parents? Santa Claus. Gee. Was. Naughty. Really? Well, maybe we're just jerking off here then. Sounded like some squirrel getting his nuts squeezed. Naughty. Naughty this! Red collar. Good point. Shh. Naughty. Garbage day! Huh? No!
Make some noise! So I have a couple guests tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome them to the show. Please welcome, first up, documentary filmmaker, Mr. Justin Beahm. Sir, grab a mic. Sit anywhere you like. I know, right? Fancy.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Great. So if you like this, buy the disc.
Right?
And also, just as a quick plug, I think that we still at Shout Factory have some of the sets with the NECA Ricky figure left.
It's a good looking figure.
Yeah. So if you go to shoutfactory.com, you can order that up there, or just the standard edition with a ton of these special features and whatnot.
Justin, before we introduce our other guests, would you like to just give people a little bit of insight on your participation with these films?
Sure. I've been, a writer for Fangoria, Famous Monsters of Filmland, Scream magazine out of the UK for many years. And then for a short time, I was a vice president for a few years with a company called Trancas International Films. That's the parent company of the Halloween franchise. So I did that for a while and put Halloween back in theaters in 2012 and produced the Halloween 4 and 5 Blu-rays, which is the first Blues that I ever produced. Then I started doing it for Shout Factory and some other companies, and Shout's really my main home. But I produced all of the content on these discs and acquire titles and stuff like that.
Excellent. So next up, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to introduce the people who were directly involved in this film from day one. So first off, please welcome director of Silent Night, Deadly Night, Part 2, Mr. Lee Harry. All right. How are you tonight?
I'm very well.
Excellent. We had a blast, didn't we, guys? Yeah. Every single time I see this, I walk away going, God, I had fun. I had so much fun.
That's nice to hear.
You're welcome. So our last guest for the night is the star of Silent Night, Deadly Night. Please welcome Mr. Eric Freeman. All right. How is everybody? Doing all right? Doing
Great.
well? Feeling energized? Feeling good? Because we got some questions, right, guys? We got some questions. So first off, Eric, I have to say, watching this film again, you are the king of eyebrows in this film.
Apparently so. Nervous energy, 20 years old. I don't know. I don't know what to blame it on. But it is what it is. It is what it is.
I understand.
They are what they are.
So what is your story going into this film? Like, how did you, I know most of us, might have heard it during the introduction, but for those listening, after the fact at home, what is your story of, first getting involved in this film?
Just to actor look, I saw in the posting of this film, or looking for casting an untitled horror film in Burbank. That's how it started. I don't want to belabor it, other than to say that I went up as just to see if there was a role available, and read for one of the policemen in the film, and and said thank you to Lee and Joe Earl, the other writer and editor, and just asked who's got the lead. And I think a gentleman, possibly, I think it was David Heavener, had this thing. They had it locked on David, and understandably so. When you have someone, you have someone. But it just turned out that I asked, and it may have been enough. I'm not sure. Someone liked me somewhere along the way, and that's how it started.
Awesome. And Lee, what is your experience coming into this film? How did you first get involved?
I was working as a editor, sound editor, picture editor for a post house in Burbank, and a friend of the owners had just bought Silent Night, Deadly Night from TriStar. It had not done well for TriStar because public outrage at the Santa Claus situation. So they brought it to us and wondered if we could recut the movie, totally recut it, put another title on it, and they could release it as if nothing ever happened. And we watched it a couple times, and we talked about it and said, no, we can't do that, but if you give us a little bit of money, we could shoot some scenes and kind of flesh out a different story, make it a flashback type of movie, and that's what they did.
So how difficult was that? Was that something you pitched initially?
We did. Joe and I and our other friend Dennis, who worked there, we're all editors working there, and this was just a fun chance for us to do something other than commercials and things like that.
So how difficult would you say is the process of trying to write a sequel to something that's already established and still use the footage and incorporate that into a good chunk of the movie?
Well, we're thinking as editors. So if we come up with, all right, we need the main character. Okay, that's going to be Ricky. So what's the first thing we want to see with Ricky? Well, let's get him in a situation where he's telling flashbacks, and that would be, okay, he's in this hospital after, all this terrible stuff happened to his brother. And we took it from there. We're watching the movie on a moviola, and we stop it, say, okay, here'd be a good place to have a scene. Why don't we try something here? And maybe something that we saw in the movie we knew was coming up in the movie. We could, do some foreshadowing of that with our flashbacks. And, it was a puzzle. It really was a puzzle.
Were there any scenes, because I believe I saw one, was there any scenes in which it was supposed to be a flashback from the first movie, but it was new footage? Because I believe there's one in general.
Yes.
There's a sex scene?
Yes.
Yes. Now, what was the reasoning behind not using the footage from the first one?
Well, we couldn't get the rights. I mean, the cast of the first movie had signed, away their rights when they did that movie. But I guess when you do a nude scene, you have different writers that say that that scene can't be used for marketing or used for, in a sequel specifically. So we had our, the assistant at the office. She and her actor boyfriend did that for us, in the back room at the production company where we were.
And conversely, too, in the theater scene in part 2, the movie they're watching is footage of the beginning of the first film, because that Santa isn't seen in any of the Ricky stuff, right? Outside of the one thing. So,
right.
So he was able to cut that in and use it without having to relicense or shoot another thing like that. So
that's the
sitting there watching themselves.
Yeah, that's that wildest moment for me, that meta, just like, they're watching the first movie?
And Lee's in the back row in that too.
Yeah.
He is. He's next to the annoying guy. That's Lee.
Yeah.
Well, that's you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's phenomenal.
Well, just, to us saying, at some point, one of us said, well, what's going to be the movie? It's got to be watching a movie. And another one of us said, why aren't they watching this movie? That's crazy. So it's kind of the mindset we were in when we
because they've been watching it for 40 minutes already.
Yeah.
But I do want to say one thing about the script, though, because Lee gave me, and if you watch the documentary, the second one, I cut some of it in there, but you look at the script pages, and it would be like setting a scene, dialogue, and it would just say like insert scene from part 1 here, like it, and I scroll through some of that in the documentary where you can actually see where it says to insert. So he was, one thing I will say at the outset here is that while you look at this movie and a lot of people think it's half of one movie and half of another, the team puts so much into this, and it's remarkable. And I don't know if you're going to ask questions about storyboarding and things like that, but he had traditional storyboards and photo storyboards that he went to the locations in advance, and he had everything mapped out. I mean, remarkable planning for this thing. I don't know if that was your editor's mind that made that happen or what, but so much happened on such a short schedule and with so little money. It's a very ambitious film.
What points out the danger of doing storyboards beforehand, because when you get to the set and you have the producer over your shoulder saying now, but I have all these nice storyboards and we need to do this and this. And it's dangerous because if you've built the scene up in your mind, in your head, using these 10 shots, but you can only get 5 of those shots, that's hard for a first-timer to deal with, especially when you have, 30 people looking.
But as I was cutting that stuff together, and I even do it in the documentary, your shots line up with, when you could, with the storyboards. Like I go A-B, like on where Eric gets shot and falls out the window. It's literally the exact same. The perspective is even the same. So anyway, for people who have been critical of the film, for whatever reasons, like you need to, everyone should really look into this and see how much went into making it.
I have a follow-up question to that. Were there any scenes that were storyboarded that did not go into completion, did not get shot, that you guys regret?
Scene-wise, I would say no. A few shots here and there just because we didn't have time. And
sure.
If we knew we didn't have time, we would take the shot that we did have time to do and extend it. Okay, instead of cutting here, run over to the door, and that will take the place of the shot that we couldn't get. So, considering the whole Mother Superior, him chasing Mother Superior through the house was at 4:00 in the morning. Pretty much that whole scene.
Eric had an idea for a shot, actually, on set. He had an idea for a shot.
Yeah, I did. I had great. I was aware of Jack Nicholson in The Shining.
Yeah.
And, punching a hole in the door, and here's Johnny, and I started thinking, am I going to hack through this door, or could we? But since we were renting the house, it turned out I couldn't. But my idea was, these old school doors in houses that just have 3 pins that hold them in, and I said, let's pull the pins out of the door, and because I was coming down the hallway on the other side of the door, I said, I posed this to Lee, and I said, let me run down the hallway and jump on the door, literally leap onto the door and come down on the door like I'm riding a surfboard, come into the room that way. Boom! On top of a door, and instead of hacking through it. And there were a lot of reasons why, but we were just renting the house for the day, and they were an elderly couple, and they had worried.
Who lived on 666 Lucifer Lane, huh?
Yeah, we were so lucky to find that address.
Was that real? That wasn't just, okay. He got me. Oh.
But
I'm embarrassed.
They were kind of following everyone around in the production with like I think she had liquid gold in her hand. She was concerned about the floors and so.
And then you knocked over a bureau.
Yeah, and so yeah, they were. I think that was when we're making noise upstairs doing that. And
when you come into the
and they were all flustered about it. So there was considerations there. And I was just hey, well, why listen to him on that stupid idea? Let's just get the shot. But and we just didn't have time to experiment. But I still think it'd be a hell of an entry.
Oh yeah, completely different take on getting through a door
I think we should.
as a slasher. So I do have a question about just your take on the character, right? So did you watch the first film prior to making this one?
No.
No.
I knew it was pulled from the theaters. That was the extent. I didn't have a chance to look at it. I tried to search it out on my own. At that time, it was literally pulled out of existence. Perhaps, I'm sure Lee and Joe have a copy of it somewhere, of course. But I didn't see it, didn't know of it, didn't know how great Robert did in his movie. And I was under the impression it was a lighthearted take. I spun it a different way, and I did spin it a different way. But all in all, I may have said this earlier, and I don't want to be redundant, but Lee did a fantastic job at seaming this together, and for the money and the time and the pressure he was under, it was just freaking fabulous. And I did what I did. Looking back, I would say, God, those choices. Could I have left that strange Caldwell guy for the times he needed to be Caldwell? So, yeah, we're hard on ourselves. And I can sit there and laugh at it now, and I'm glad that people like it. But there was a good amount of time that I was like, good thing it's dead. But no, it's funny. And people like it. And long after I'm dead, people are going to like it. And Lee did a great job.
What was your first experience watching a final cut?
Well, Lee knows this better than I, but there was a lot of issues with sound on that movie, and I had done a lot of what they call ADR. And so I was literally called back in to do redo a lot of the dialogue. And that's not easy. And you have to throw your voice right back into a moving mouth on the screen. And so that was a full day of that at least. I never actually seeing it done. It was so low budget. Seeing it done, it's a great question, but I waited whatever amount of months it was till it was actually showing in theater. And I saw it in some dumpy theater in Culver City. I didn't know it was playing up at what they called Grauman's Chinese.
Yeah, the Egyptian.
The Egyptian. Thank you. And I saw it in real seedy part of Culver City, and they in that theater they were just yelling at the screen. They were talking to the movie like, "Don't go in there," and all that. So I was part of that group, but that's when I first saw it. And that's when I said, well, it's going to die an evil death. I grabbed the poster off the wall, leaving the foyer, the lobby, and it rolled it up. And I said, well, I've got those ratty shoes that I wore in the psychiatrist scene and this poster. That's what I've got. And I said, I have something that said I did it. And that's how it ended for me. And all this time elapsed, as time does. And here we are. So.
Lee, have you seen it with an audience?
Yes. I was at the first night at the Egyptian. Oh, sorry. I was at the first night at the Egyptian, and my wife was there, and we brought some friends of ours. We went to Musso and Frank and had a martini, and we're going to go across the street and see this. And it did not go well. It was not received well.
Okay.
And the thing, remember too, when you work on something, and you guys know this, when you work on something and you're really close to it for a long period of time, it's not like you tell yourself lies, but you psych yourself up every day to work on something, and you find the good things in it, and the things that make you laugh, and the things, oh, geez, that's a great dolly shot. I can't believe we actually got that on this budget. So I still look at it, and I see the shots that we got. When you sit with an audience, I have a hard time with an audience. Until recently, because I know back when it first came out, audiences would be, what is this shit? Who are the jerks who made this movie? I mean, there was hate coming at you. But I don't feel that anymore. I feel that it was so long ago that people look at it and say, okay, it was of its time, So I can watch it easier now than I did before, to answer your question.
What about your mom when she saw it, Lee?
Well, it wasn't my mother, it was my grandmother.
Oh, your grandmother, that's right.
Who was in Winchester, Virginia. I'm from Virginia. And she was so proud, and she took her friends from the retirement home. Oh, my grandson made a movie. It's about Santa Claus. So, and she went to see it, and that night we got a phone call. And she wouldn't talk to me. She talked to my dad, her son, and just, you tell that boy that he's got to wash his mouth out with soap. That is just awful. And seeing naked women up there and blood and axes, and I was so embarrassed. And I just your worst nightmare, your grandmother seeing that movie.
It's a great story.
Yeah, well, it's true.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, I asked this last night, and I want to keep going with that same kind of theme. Is that what would both of your favorite kill in the film?
Oh, it has to be the umbrella. I mean, that was just something we, as we sit around and talk about, oh, what should we do? And that was just something we couldn't recall ever seeing. I mean, seen the guy electrocuted and, decapitations and all that, but the umbrella and then it opening was the kicker for me.
I completely agree. That's my favorite scene. And there's a lot into, Lee was right there, remembers every frame of it and every moment, as I do. Frank Novak, the recipient of the umbrella, big bull of a man. The kind of guy who can knock you off your feet just by bumping into you. And he was very agile on his feet too. I mean, he was able to look. He made it look. These are really stunts he was doing, in the sense that he was crouching down on an apple box, and then I'm pushing him up, so to speak, lifting him up and making it look like I was like some superhuman dude. But it was all Frank. He just subtly pushed himself up the back of that wall. It just made it look good. And the rain was just an old lead pipe with holes drilled in it, and just a weak pressurized water going through it. I mean, it was, like ramshackle scene, so to speak, just really just thrown together, but it all worked. And I ended up looking damn good in it. I was happy. Like, wow, and I thought that'd be a big scene for me, so I was ready for it. I'll wear a t-shirt. Whatever. Crazy.
You're 18 in that scene, by the way. That's how you narrate it. I was 18. Yeah. Strapping.
And that scene was gorier than what ended up. They actually shot with some glue.
No, I had a camera. We had the fake body, and I had a camera on the other side of the body, and we had a shot of the umbrella coming right at camera with a piece of, intestine on it. And the MPAA had me take that out. So.
And Chris Biggs said that intestine was real. He's like, well, you just can't beat the real stuff. So he just goes to a butcher shop and's like, "Give me a bucket of intestines," and they're like, "All right, Chris, we'll hook you up again." So yeah, I wish that remained. I wish that footage was remaining.
Yeah, me too. Well, it may be. It may be in that tape you gave me.
We looked at. I looked at that though. Yeah, we scanned that. It's not in there.
No, it's too bad. No, I had the one thing I did do back when you asked when you first see the movie. I had the foresight, and I said to Joe Earl, Lee's partner, I said, "Hey, is there any way I can get a copy of this?" Well, I was always into getting copies. We wanted videotape stuff or reels. And he said, "Go get these Scotch 3/4 tapes. Go get 2 of them." And back then, I'm busted. It's like $100 for these fancy blank tapes to tape the movie. And he said, "Bring it back to me, and I'll put it on this so and so, and I'll dupe it for you." And that's what I dug out. I dug it out after 30 years, and I handed it over to Lee. And I said, "Hey, look, see what this is. If there was any more in this than we know."
And we looked at it, and there wasn't. It's just the final edit of the film. Yeah, it's the final cut. So still something out there, man.
Right?
We need to assemble the ultimate cut.
So I do have a question about just there's so much physicality in this film for you, Eric, and it looks like everybody's just having so much fun, and you can tell by the script, just the funny kind of meta, like you mentioned the rain, like you killed somebody with an umbrella, then it rains, like there's a line in the film where you go, "Well, I guess we're just jerking off here," right? And it's like, yeah, because we're still watching the other movie, but we'll get to the news footage in a second. Like, there's some meta lines in here that are just that you can tell that everybody is having so much fun from start to finish.
Except for Dr. Bloom.
No,
Jim was not having much fun.
Oh, as on set?
Well, he was a real pro, so he didn't really, play very much, and he hit his mark all the time. Which, for me, I was all about the shots and the close-ups and hitting the marks, and he was very good. So were you. You were good with that too. But he was very serious. Took the whole thing very seriously.
I think it adds something to that scene, to the character. You can't have two people who are chewing the scenery, and so one is doing exactly what you should do in that role, and he's the very calm, collected, exactly that "you don't scare me" kind of attitude. So I think that worked in your advantage. Absolutely. We've been talking so long, but I'm sure other people have some questions. Anything out there? Yes.
I 20. I'm going to be 21. I forgot the month we shot. 20.
It was early January, December. It was holiday season.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
Young, strapping man.
No one said Garbage Day. You guys don't have questions about Garbage Day? I took a picture of that part of the script where they had originally written Garbage Day, because there's a point in the documentary where we talk about what that became, because it's really it's a zeitgeist kind of a thing in a way, and a lot of people know that from know the film from that led them there. But when I was flipping through the script, I was actually sitting at a coffee house in South Pasadena, right next to Myers' house from the original Halloween. I always used to write there, and I flipped to that page, and I was so excited to see it. Because I'm like, this is it. This is the moment of inception for Garbage Day, and I put it in the documentary. But that experience, and when you first found out about all this stuff, your buddy led you online and was like, "Hey, check this out." And then, wait a minute, what? This is a thing? Tell the Garbage Day story and how you found out this was what it is.
And this is something that Lee should be asked as well. Is what was the actual intention of what? I would love to ask. What was your plans in your head for Garbage Day, in the sense of how delivery, and clearly it wasn't what I did, but rather that's a bit more in a John Wayne or Eastwood style of Garbage Day. But how I found out, well, look, I didn't know anything about this movie in a brief ride, meaning I didn't know anything about Garbage Day or the 6 million hits or whatever it is, 9 million hits, whatever it is now. I was back east. I was getting a car back up on the road to bring back to Los Angeles. And long story short, a buddy of mine who had prior said to me, "Hey Eric, you got to look at this website, Finding Freeman, da da da." And I blew him off months earlier. And he said, "No, you got to look at this. It's really big. It's something." And I said, "Okay." And I went and looked, and he showed me this, that, and the other. And in Garbage Day, there's that one particular video. YouTube's like 6 million hits at the time, and I was like, wow. And I couldn't believe it either. And then of course you read. For me, I knew it wasn't my best work, but I drifted into things that negative comment, positive comment, negative comment. So I was like, oh, they weren't there.
Never read the comments.
But yeah, because it can kill you. But I guess Joe and Lee had an idea of a character they were building for this. It's kind of a good avenue to go down, and I know it wasn't what I did, and I know it wasn't. And I kept thinking in my head, should I be subtle here? We didn't have the luxury of many takes. We didn't have. Lee again was working 9 jobs in this as director. He was everything, and we didn't have a lot of discourse between us. We didn't talk. We got the shot. We moved on. I knew it was a one-shot take, and when I later worked for David Dakota, it was the same thing. Get your shit together, kid, because you're on your own. Do your job, and I've got to direct this thing. I don't have time to tell you what I want or whatever, and just give it to me. And so I did what I did, but I know that there was a better idea on this. And Lee knows, and Joe was frequently not liking what I was doing on the set for various reasons. Because he did like David Heavener, the other man they had there. So
he would have been too intense. He's done a bunch of, I think, some of these movies that are in here, David Heavener, and he was very intense, and it wouldn't have been the same.
Eric, this movie, you're the engine in this movie.
Yeah.
Like I cannot, and I've had these discussions. There's no one else on this planet that could have done this, and that would have resulted in it us being here tonight. That being there, a doll of you existing. This is because of you. So it always hurts a little bit to hear you second guess yourself with it. Well, I get how that feels for you, but man, I mean, like,
no, I thank you.
Lee.
No, you guys have to realize nowadays you have access to all of your work and all of your memories. It's in your phone. It's in half a dozen places. When this movie came out and disappeared, that was it. As far as we were concerned, all right, thank goodness that's over. We don't have to read those bad reviews. And at some point, all of a sudden this Garbage Day meme started popping up. And like you said, you look at the hits. Are you kidding? Are you kidding? And it just kept getting bigger and bigger. Then we found the Finding Freeman site. And then you came back into the picture. I mean, I never thought in a million years that anyone would be watching this movie all these years later, and much less enjoying it.
But so what is? I mean, what Eric was talking about is he's like, you guys didn't write this with what he did in mind. How do you feel about that? Like, how would you respond to that to him here?
Well, I'll tell you, it's both Joe and I at the time we wrote this. I told you this story. We were both reading The Stand, Stephen King's The Stand, and one thing, I love Stephen King, and he writes the best dialogue, villain dialogue, that, in my opinion, no one has ever been able to say it on screen and make it believable, except I think Jeffrey Dean Morgan in Walking Dead is the closest to a Stephen King psychopath villain, believable villain. But that's what Garbage Day was. It was just a, kind of a non sequitur. Here's a guy taking out his garbage. It must be Garbage Day. Blam! And that's just something that Lloyd, who's in the stand, or Polk, his partner in the stand, there's a scene in a convenience store where they're just shooting people at random. and spouting off these things. Oh, cereal time, blam, and shoot somebody. And it's horror, so that's kind of why that whole shootout scene is there anyway. It's just, that was horror to us. We've already had the heads coming off from the first movie. This is our horror, which unfortunately is, more prevalent now, horror-wise. But anyway, it was, not to sound too highfalutin, but it was a homage to Stephen King. Those kind of lines for us.
Was there ever a choice or a thought or a discussion to put Ricky in Santa costume for the Garbage Day massacre?
No.
Okay.
No, because that was when he snapped.
Right.
The whole thing with Chip and I can't remember Liz's character. Jennifer. That was the moment he snapped and remembered Mother Superior and the punish and all that stuff. And just for him to do it in his street clothes seemed even more horrifying.
I want to talk about the final car stunt. Because there's a shot that seems like it was extremely dangerous to pull off. And I was wondering if you could get a little more insight on how that day and that shot kind of went down, and because how close was it, or was it just a camera trick?
No, it was this far from it. It was, he had practiced that over in the Rose Bowl parking lot, as I recall, a couple of different times. Not the car falling over, but his buddy going up on two wheels and going right past him. And we waited until the end of the day. That was the last shot of the day. The sun was going down, almost had lost the sun, and we did the stunt and almost killed Spiro. Spiro Rosados, who was our stunt coordinator and the guy who did that and fell down the stairs and did all that stuff, he was just second unit director on both Avengers movies. So he was stunt coordinator for a long time, now second unit director. But yeah, it could have gone horribly wrong.
And Eric, you were close to it too. You were watching it.
I was. We both had the sweaters. Those sweaters were picked up at the Kmart blue light bin, $5 each. And he had one of them on, and I was right. I was out of danger, of course, but I was watching, and it was that narrow. It seemed like 2 inches, and he moves his hips, and he sways his body out of the way like a cat, and it just right past him. So that was it was cool. But it was close. Yeah.
Anyone else?
Was there supposed to be something more with Mother Superior with the face stuff, or was it just a stylistic choice?
Lillian Chauvin, who played Mother Superior in the first movie, did not want to do it again. Actually, I think she might have wanted to do it again, but she wanted too much money. So we thought, we can't just put another person in there, even though we probably could have. So we put another person in there and messed up her face, because no one would be able to tell the difference that way.
And she's in a wheelchair, so you're like, well, what happened to her? Well, I don't know. Maybe she fell off a
something
skateboard
major happened to her.
Yeah, something bad.
That's the story we need to hear. Have any of you been in contact with any of the other people that have played your roles, such as Bill Moseley carried on your character in Silent Night Part 3? Have you seen that role and what they did with it after that?
Yeah, I not so recently did I see his movie. They showed it as a double feature last year down the road at Tarantino's New Beverly. And I was forewarned. See, people do not like what he did, and I have met him at a convention, and we got, I introduced myself, and so we have that in common. And he's a fantastic actor. What he does is really, people love him. So, and he even admitted, I don't know what the hell that was. That was Monty Hellman was directing that. So, and Monty wanted to go as far away from 2 as possible, and perhaps Lee knows more on that. I have, and Justin, who did the Blu-ray on this and did the Blu-ray for Robert Wilson's movie, Part 1, I had all the actors was interviewed in the Blu-ray, and so I did get to meet some of the others, and my younger version of myself, and I didn't get to meet Liz, but I met Kenny McCabe and a few others, and they're all the same people. They're just they were real happy to do the work back then, and they're still the same high-spirited people that they were then. So nobody's jaded or sad about it, or like even Frank Novak, the big guy from the Umbrella scene. I used to see Frank a lot in auditions afterwards. He'd drive around, and he'd always be my father or my big brother in auditions, and he kept at it.
He shows up in Law and Order every now and then.
Yeah.
Anything else, sir?
So I saw you wearing a pretty, cool leather jacket. Is that the same jacket from the movie when you're on a motorcycle?
No. What happened to that? Same style, same kind of thing.
And did you sell the shoes or give them to somebody?
No, it was funny about the shoes, because I had that poster in the closet for all those years, rolled up, and
which you kept,
and then
right?
one
You
day
still
I
have
looked
that.
at it. It's funny because do I have that still? Do I not have it? I was fortunate enough to be in the same place for so long. That thing just rolled up in the dark. But the shoes, which I would see almost every day, and I finally just said, "Why the hell do I have these?" And I just, sometimes you just throw things out when you don't know why you're throwing things out, and they went. We do that in life, and I had done that, and what the hell? It was all Kmart, whatever. $50 budget we had. I remember that for those sweaters and shoes, and I had my own jeans, and that's all we needed. So
when we did the disc, Eric and I had a lot of discussion beforehand, and he came up. He has a script that I'm sure you're happy to talk about as a sequel to this, actually. But we wanted to tease that, and so Eric came up with the idea for a little teaser, a new short about Ricky, and so we actually shot. There's actually another Silent Night, Deadly Night movie. It's a short that we did. It's a 5-minute thing on this that Eric wrote front to back, and when it came time to shoot it, I was obsessed with finding the right shoes and the right shirt and all that stuff. So he walks in, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, go get dressed in this room." And he walks out, and there is Ricky with the right shoes, the right shirt, and he's back, and he just, we shot that thing, and he just clicked into that character again all these years later, and it was really remarkable to see and be a part of.
I enjoyed that.
Sorry, one more thing. Not to go back to the garbage day thing, but for me that was huge. I'm going to say 13 years ago, probably after high school. Did you guys know how that went viral right away, or was it years down the line? Was it a few years ago when you guys knew about the garbage day, popularity and all the news?
Well, it was right before Finding Freeman became a thing, and I can't remember who showed it to me. A friend at work, because every now and then someone will say, "Did you do that movie, Silent Night, Deadly Night? Well, have you seen that thing online?" And back at the time, no. What thing online? What are you talking about? This movie was dead and buried, never to be seen again, and all of a sudden, you couldn't get away from it. I mean, they have musical versions of it. They have, yes, they have, right, game versions of it. It's amazing. People are clever.
No, I don't know if I addressed that, but for me, it was 5 years ago. I found out, so I'm late to the game, but it's surprising. I was glad to, in a way, it's nice. I mean, it comes back and people enjoy it, and it's in Robert's movies back in full force. People love that. And there's two camps. There's this camp that loves Robert's movie, and quite a few in popularity, way more than ours. And then there's my camp, and then there's the camp that love both those movies. And so overall, I'm humbled by it, and I'm glad people like it. it's still hard. And you can ask any actor; they don't look at their own dailies. They generally don't want to see what they're doing. They move on with their careers and stuff. And, so it's still hard to look at it, of course, because it's me. I'm like, oh, who's that young guy? And but and you know, for me, had I changed anything, or now I say, well, I'd like to change this or that, we wouldn't be here. It wouldn't be. And so let's leave it be and let people laugh or cry or say, oh my God, you know, what'd you do there? Well, whatever they want to say is fine.
Excellent. Anyone else? Sure, please.
Do you remember the direction that was given to the orderly at the beginning of the film?
I think it was basically be threatening, be an orderly. You know that this guy's been here for a while, and you know his tricks. You know he's surly. You know he, messes with your mind. So that's pretty much it. And I think he did a nice job with that.
But let him have his smoke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We all smoked back then.
Yeah, every just to say on that, many people have commented on his scene, and it's very good. And shaking of his finger, like, you know, don't get out of control, I'll put you down, and something like that, you know. And so it's cool. People always laugh when they see that, and so it's a good question. It's never been asked, but
Yeah.
I don't know the name of the actor. I just know he did a good little piece of work there. And same with Randy Post. Randy was the loudmouth in the theater. Friend of mine from we did some work prior. We did a Monsters episode with Ralph Bellamy for Twilight Zone. He's a good friend of mine, and I introduced him to you, Lee, and Lawrence, and Applebaum, and I said, well, you know, this Randy, is there a job for him? And boom, and so I got him in on that. I have not talked to him since the day on the set. In Orange County, I think he's a police officer or something. Yeah. No, he wasn't at all. It's like, Eric, what happened there? So, but no, he did a great job. He was unnatural. He had never done anything to that degree at all. I don't even think he's ever had dialogue in a film or anything. He got paid $75, and he's so poor.
Paid?
Yeah, you got paid. Yeah, you know, that was a big deal because I had gone to bat, went up to Larry and said, Larry, take it out of my pay. Pay him. He's broke. He needs some money. He got paid $75 for that day, for that piece of work, and drove home. And so, if he's out there, Randy, thank you. And, but that's a little side story. So I don't know because he did a good piece of work, and then I haven't talked to him in 30 years. But I didn't mean to take any time other than there's little pieces of work in there that were very good. Liz was excellent, Liz Caton. And so it's worth mentioning.
Randy Boffman, who played the would-be rapist. I mean, he looks like a young Kevin Costner at the time, and it's a despicable character, but I thought he did a really good job with it.
You had a question.
So first one, I'm sitting with the whole Santa look, where you see like there they took the beard off. I remember you guys were saying yesterday that it was just because he's such a handsome man. With this, what was the choice for losing the beard and the hair?
So the question was, what was the choice for losing the beard and hair on this one compared to the first movie?
I seem to recall that we had the phone booth scene with the dead Santa, and I think our thinking was to leave the beard on him, so you were positive that was a Santa Claus.
That's where he got the costume from.
Exactly. And I don't think we ever talked about the beard after that.
No, and the director of photography, Harvey Jenkins, was the Santa I left in the phone booth. Really kind and real pro.
Great guy. And
I think that they made me look a lot better looking than I ever was, but And I like that scene coming in that house and busting down that door, and it was subtle. It was more subtle than anything else I did, so I like it. But yeah, no, there was a lot of. And I forgot his name. The actor that played the younger version of me with the Jeep rolling over the body, and
it's Daryl.
Daryl Gilbo.
And Daryl does a lot of voice work. Like, he's a huge voice in the anime world, and so he does a lot of cartoon voices and things.
Anyone else before we finish out? Okay. Excellent. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there's a couple things that we do to finish the show up for Bombs Away. One is that we give each film that we do on the show here a rating, and it's based upon what we call the Jaws scale. So a film is given a rating between Jaws all the way to Jaws the Revenge, because as we know, that series kind of trickled down as the sequels went on. So one would say, like, oh, you know, you're being kind because you guys are right present. But I must say that this film for me is definitely just a Jaws. Why? Because it gives you not one movie, but two. You get two for the bang, for your buck, you know? And there's something so uniquely fun and just exciting about this movie. You're just watching it and you're going through, and whether it's flashbacks or whether it's real time, the whole time you're just like, this guy is wild, and so is this movie. And so for me, it's Jaws. Absolutely.
Wow. Well, thank you. I would have been happy with Jaws 3D.
Jaws 3D.
That's very nice of you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you all for coming. Really means a lot.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you. So I did not get a chance to mention this in the last thing that we did last night, but we're sitting here at the Retro Release pop-up, and I just want to thank Retro Release Video and Tapes from the Crypt, and just everybody who's been able to put this together this weekend. What an amazing, just fun, fantastic, creative time that we've all had here the past weekend. So thank you to everybody out there. Before we finish up, something that we do like to do is we try to find like 10-star reviews or 5-star reviews on Amazon. And sometimes they get really wild, and I like to find ones that they try to compare a film to films that don't quite need any comparison. So this is a segment we call Give Me 5. This one's written by Haddonfield Jason, so we know who, what, and what he likes, right? Titled Lay Off the Sauce. He says, Silent Night, Deadly Night is the funniest movie ever made. It is so funny and full of wall-to-wall laughs. It is sort of like the recent comedic masterpiece Cop Out with Bruce Willis making a new best friend in Tracy Morgan. It is not as good in comedic value as, say, Kevin Kline in Dave, which chronicled the story of the greatest president who ever lived. My favorite character is Ricky, who decides it would be fun to go on a kill rampage through his neighborhood. The best moment of the film is where Ricky yells garbage day to an unsuspecting neighbor before shooting him.
This is thorough.
Yeah. Eric Freeman is probably the best actor ever. He's almost as good as Daniel Day-Lewis in the classic film Gangs of New York and There Will Be Blood. I love all the grisly little scenes. Ricky is a comedic god. I feel like I'm at Knott's Berry Farm of laughter. Garbage Day. 10 stars. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up to our special guest tonight. I want to wish Justin a very happy birthday, sir.
Oh, thank you.
You're very welcome. Mr. Lee Harry and Mr. Eric Freeman. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been Bombs Away. Thank you. Enjoy your night, and we'll see you back here tomorrow for Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers. Thank you. Have a good night.
This
has been a production of Big Bulb Entertainment, executive produced by Jonathan Young. For more media and information, visit us at www.bigbulbentertainment.com. Big Bulb, what's your bright idea?